Hello, guys. I think the quality is a little bit better today. I think the weather helps, but it doesn't need to show how it doesn't need to be better because I look like crap. Guys, do not work and do Pathfinder or Dungeons and Dragons or any type of that type of game because it was technically neither because you need sleep. So I'm running in like 5 hours, if that, of sleep, and I'm a person that I need my solid 7, if not 8. So, hi. Now, for what it matters, why we are here reunited today, as a new update of the books I have read. As I am extremely sleep deprived by my own fault, this is going to be amazing. I'm pretty sure that nothing will go wrong. I have to say that I haven't read yet The Little White, but I have started it. It's not much, but it was already infuriating in many senses. So this is happening, and now that I started, it will. I'm not gonna say fast because this is a very big book, and I'm not listening or. I like to pay attention to those books, like proper attention and enjoy. So I like to take my time with it. So it is happening. I'm not sure if it will happen today because my brain is fried, but it is happening. And I have 5 books, but most of them it's not good. Like this is the stack. Let's just say that I'm only gonna keep one. It's good for my shelves though, so there's that. There was 3 DNFs, but all have reasons. One of them, it was one that I. Sorry, the cat is not helping. Okay, she's licking her behind there. Okay. The first one I haven't even started, and I just took it off for a very simple reason that it is it is in Portuguese. It is a Portuguese translation of Boudica, Dreaming the Eagle, and this is the first one on trilogy, if I'm not mistaken. But this is in Portuguese. I read mostly in English. And you're like, oh, Portuguese is your language. You should read in English and all of that. But if you start reading in English, you will notice that Portuguese translations are bad. Really bad. And then the books don't arrive here for many a times. Like I don't want to I don't want to exaggerate, but I did a little research and I am not sure that all of the Anne of Green Gables exist in Portuguese. Or if they existed, it was long ago and they are not being printed now. And I just think that is disrespectful to begin with. So yeah, this is in Portuguese. I'm not even sure if you have the rest of the trilogy. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't seen the rest of the trilogy. So I am gonna cut my losses and then hold this one and get this in English. This is literally what the title says. This is the story of Queen Boudica and how she became a queen. Because I think that she doesn't start as a queen here. Yeah, I don't even know much of it. I know that is basically a novelization of her story. So how she was first a fan of the Romans and then the Romans did what Romans do, and she was like, nope, I am gonna fight against you guys, and all of that. So, this is the first one that is gonna go. The second one is in English, and I read a tiny little bit, and I said, no, I cannot do it like this. And this is Selected Poems and Letters of Keats by Robert Gittis. I'm not sure I've said this, but this one is by Amanda Scott. This is by Robert Keatings. I'm not saying this correctly at all, and it's just a little pocket book. that has some poems, some letters. I have an issue with poetry. I mean, I like poetry when I'm reading it and I can understand it by reading it and not needing to have like a private a knowledge of the mentions that are being made there. There's like it's like being they are using words that go that back at the time were a mention of something that occurred, or like a name that they give to a place that now it's a, you know what I mean. Poetry is not easy to get into. um I am not sure if kids poetry is for me, poems, but I do want to properly try it, but not like that. I think I want to find a biography that explains better his life. This has a little bit of it at the beginning, but it's nothing. Then, like, I want an entertaining biography of him that any person can understand what is happening there and can enjoy it. That explains his life and influences and all of that in a way that it's not tedious. Because I know it's possible, but lots of times they make it the most. Sorry, I saw a seagull. I'm like the dog, like seagull instead of squirrel. Anyway, in a way that is not tedious, like it happened. This is not the rant. This is my sleep deprived mind because I'm thinking of biographies and other things that I read that were talking to you as if they were just info dumping on you and they don't make it entertaining, and that's not a good book. I am sorry. I mean, maybe well researched, maybe even better researched than a lot of them that are up there, but nobody's going to read that and enjoy unless they are going there specifically because they really enjoy that subject and you have something that the others don't have. So yeah. Anyway, this is rambling. I'm going on a digression here. I'm gonna find a better way to actually get into enjoying Keats' poetry, letters, and all of that. Not like this. I think this is probably good for either a person that already has knowledge of it and just wants likes the ones that are here and wants to keep this because it's like, oh, I have some of them, or maybe a scholar thing. I'm not sure. For classes, maybe this was a thing because I'm not seeing any other purpose of this book because it's not good enough to explain me what's happening, and also doesn't it's I have a feeling that he wrote more than this. So I mean, this is a selection, so clearly he wrote more than this, but you know what I mean. It feels like it's once I get a bigger book with everything, or a couple of bigger books, this is just gonna be thrown away. So I'm gonna throw away. Also, this was on my library. Um, it's like a donation pile that my library had. I'm not losing money. I mean, most of the times I'm not, because this one got it for really cheap too. So it's like this one was also a donation from my library, and it's like Boudica's case. This is the let me the Kitchen Congregation by Norris Eden. I really wanted to read this, and when I saw it, I actually was fascinated by this because this is supposed to be non-fiction, maybe a bit of a memoir that talks about the kitchen and the relations of women in the kitchen and how the kitchen is like basically a heart of many relationships. It's a place that people meet. It's it's very important. It's literally a very important place on your house that you don't think about it. But we all know that there is an importance of there is something that connects like the making of relationship and the bonding with the preparing and giving of food, because it is an act of love and caring of by a caring for another person. So I really wanted to read this and enjoy it because it talks about that specifically in between women. Now, I I'm not even the person that cooks in my relationship, because I'm the person that eats while cooking and then eats after cooking, and we don't need to do that. And I'm not patient at all. But I've been in this sort of a, my grandmother was really love the kitchen. Of course, my mother, she doesn't like it that much, but she had to spend quite a long time there, and I just spent quite a long time there, and I have a lot of memories connected with the kitchen or food or just specific food preparations or dishes or just being there when other people were doing that. So I really wanted to enjoy this, but I wasn't vibing with the writing. And again, this is the Portuguese translation. And I know this, you cannot do this, but I was reading this. I was not liking the writing, and I made a point of stopping, rereading things that I have read, and translated it back to English in my head. And it sounded way much better. Way better, not way much better, way better that way. So I am gonna try to get my hands on this, but in English. Because, like this, no, it's no, because Portuguese language, it's not pretty, okay? It isn't. I'm, it isn't. It just isn't. It's very sharp and it has very, not aggressive, but it feels aggressive sounds. And there is languages in the world where there has like very sharp sounds of lots of r's or other weird and not that pleasant sounds, but when they are all together and they are mixing all together and a person is speaking normally, they kind of just sound good. They kind of just create this melodic language. That's not the case with Portugal. It's very brutal almost in the ways that it can sound. Sometimes very visceral, I think, and it's not pretty. If you don't know other languages, if you only read and understand Portuguese, you will like the books. But once you get to other languages, it happened a lot. I know several people that basically read more in English because it's the translations are better, and then some things just sound weird in Portuguese when they are translated, when they are not native speak. It's not a Portuguese native speaking creating those sentences. It's like it's there is another problem because we have tons of expressions in Portugal. You will not. There is like the formal Portuguese speaking. Most of people don't really talk the formal, like the correct, I mean, it is correct the way we talk, but it's not the book version of Portuguese language. There is some words, quite a lot of them, that we know what they mean. We have seen them in books. We have read it, sometimes in the news, but we don't use it in regular speech. We sometimes just use a whole expression to instead of saying a word. It is, I mean, I'm pretty sure that there's the same issue in other languages, but I really feel that in Portuguese, because I mean, I'm Portuguese, I can't speak for it. It's, we cannot really, we would have to change if there is dialogue in English, and then a somewhat description of how the characters are feeling while they were talking. We would have to change that. We wouldn't translate it like for the Portuguese in the books in order to sound well. I feel like to pass the exact same meaning that that text had from English to Portuguese and probably in other languages, we would have to change the whole sentence for something that, if you translate it from Portuguese back to English, the meaning was completely different. And people were like, what are you telling me? This makes no sense. But I'm pretty sure this happens in other languages. But now that I can see it, it my head cannot warp around it. And since I know how to read English, I'm like, just give me English. And that plus the fact that I do not like any writer in Portuguese, I just gave up reading in Portuguese unless it's some nonfiction. And even so, I have some nonfiction in Portuguese here that I'm gonna try. Because nonfiction can be a bit different, because it's not talking, it's not feelings, it's facts. It can be a little bit more, you know, proper written. But anyway, I'm digressing. Again, this is what happens when I make videos sleep deprived. I to have two books to talk about, and I am sorry about this. This one I read. I read both of these books. This is Mr. Murder by Dean Koontz. This is basically a story of how two characters met and what happened. One of them is a writer that has a family, has a wife and two kids, happily married. His career is going in like a good path. He's going straight for success. Of course, it wouldn't be a video of mine without my phone pinging. Um, and the other character is an assassin that has no memories, he has no name, he doesn't know what he's doing besides like going on these tasks and concluding this and that assignment. Um, but the thing is, they look identical. They look like the same person, and they will meet. And this very lonely assassin, it's gonna cause some chaos. Exactly, will want the life of the writer. This was too much. Okay, the explanation for the assassin, what is happening, was too much. Even for the Incuns, it was alright. A lot of things happened that you are like, okay. Also, very predictable at the end. I could totally see where this was going. Um, Even the supposedly twist, very predictable. There was tons of clues. I I started reading this and I was like, again, my phone. I started reading this in the beginning. It was slow, and then it got interesting, and then it got too much, and then I was just fed up with it. So this is, I read it, but I'm gonna get rid of it. I wouldn't recommend this per se. I I actually kind of like the premise of it, and in the beginning I was even expecting it. Not expecting. I was kind of hoping that it went through a completely different thing. I was I was hoping for it, but I was like, no, this is going for a very direct route here. This is going to be this is just what you think it is. It's that. You know, not the most entertaining story if you ask me. The next one I read, I like. I'm going to keep, and now I have a new series to read, and I'm not sure how I feel about this. This is Winston Winston Graham Ross Pollard. This is the first one on the Pollard saga, and I like this more than I thought I would. I mean, it is fiction, historical fiction, and I do love my historical fiction, but for some reason, I wasn't expecting to like it this much. This passes between 1783 and 1787, and counts the story of Ross Pollard. It was England's British soldier that went to fight in an American war, and while he was there, his father died, a lot of things happen in his hometown. He basically lost the fiance that he had. The girl that he was promised to married another person. Father died. His estate is derelict, and now he's returning from the war and be like, have this misery. So he's coping with it, and basically is what happens to him and his family and the people around him. And this had something that I really liked. That is, it's one of those books that it just doesn't center only in one character, and you are on that character forever. You, by telling Rose's story, you have the story of the other people around it, and I really like that. You know a lot of people from that little place, and you just learn the little stories, and you see what is happening around. It's like it's never just rocks, rocks, rocks. It's rocks, and then the mills, and then Verity, and then Elizabeth. Isn't that she's called? I don't remember if it is Elizabeth anymore. I'm very bad with names. You can see the ones I like by the names that I remember. And this, I think it has 11 more books because I needed another series to get into. So yeah, the next book is. I'm not gonna say how the next book is called, even though it's. I mean, the next book is called the Melza. I don't care. Its title is not a spoiler. The next book is called the Melza, and I'm really wanting to know what will happen on that book. So yeah, that's basically the update for today. Let me put this a little bit better to show it in the to the camera. Not that it's gonna do any difference. So yeah, 2 books read, 3 books DNF'd. Gonna haul 4 of them, so this is a win. And I do not remember how many books. I forgot to do the math to see how many books I would keep on my. I was trying to see if I had anything. How many books it's on my pile, but I will put on the description how many books I still have to read. Still too many, but we are working on it. I mean, this is still it, and this is not all of this, but a lot of it. It's still it. So we have a long way to go. So this is all for now, guys. Bye.